Hi class, and welcome to our Social Studies Civilization series. While you guys are watching this YouTube, I want you guys to just look at the pictures and listen to the information. This is kind of a preview of what we're going to be studying in class. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up so that you guys know what's going on. Before we start, I think it might be a good idea for you guys to pause your YouTube for a little bit. I like to have you guys watch this in the highest definition possible. And because the file size is a little bit big, it might take some time to load. Um, and it might cause buffering issues. So if I were you, I would just hit pause maybe for about 20-30 seconds and let your computer load a little bit. So the civilization that we're going to be studying about is amazing. They were able to literally carve mountains and make what looks like these little steps, right? They were so smart that they used these terraces that they carved for farming to have more room for farming. And also, which I think is ingenious, is that they were able to put these terraces in so that it would support the mountain. I mean, imagine that. You're basically making a support system for a mountain. If you think about it, it's actually really amazing. Now, with the help of these terraces, these people were able to build an entire city on top of a mountain. Now, I'm not talking about maybe like 4 or 5 houses, couple shops, and a post office. I'm talking about an entire city. They had over 140 structures. They had temples or they worshiped sanctuaries, like holy grounds and places for sacrifice. They had parks. They had palaces. They had residences for the low class and the high class. I mean, this is like a full-on city. It has plumbing. It has water from irrigation. They have their own farmlands. They have places where they store their food. I mean, this is just a whole city. Think of a big city with stores and everything. Now, could you guys imagine all of that on top of a mountain? And you might wonder, how does this stay up there? How come it doesn't all just come crashing down the mountain? But it's just like we mentioned before. It's because these terraces gave extra support and foundation so that this city can stand. And I mean, look at this picture. Look at it. Look how high it is up in the mountains. There's nothing around there. There's no telephone wires, no electricity, nothing. You don't see any roads right there where they used to carry up all the stones. It's just by itself isolated. Magnificent city. And if you think about it, I mean, it's crazy how someone can do something like this. I mean, I'm pretty sure it wasn't done in 5-10 years. But it might have taken a long time, but without the modern technology that we have today. I mean, it's kind of like the pyramids in Egypt. How did they build it? How did they get all these stones and put it on top of the mountain? What kind of tools did they use? I mean, these are all questions that we ask, and honestly, not all of these questions have been answered yet. Hopefully, maybe one day, you guys will be able to figure it out, become famous, make me a little famous too, give me some credit. But going back to the topic, I mean, we really don't know how they completed all of this. We have ideas, but we don't know. But I just wanted to look at it for a little bit. I mean, isn't it stunning? I mean, isn't the scenery beautiful? High up in the mountains, I'm pretty sure the air is clean, right? Surrounded by nature, by wildlife. And a group of people were able to figure this out and build a beautiful city on top. Now, talking about the city, I want you guys to take a second and look at the stones that they used. Do you see how everything fits in perfectly? Now, I'm pretty sure they didn't look for rocks that fit the perfect size so that when they put it together, it just fit like a puzzle. People who have studied the city say that the stonework is so perfect that you could get a blade of grass and try to put it in between the cracks, or not the cracks, but the creases where the stones touch, and even a blade of grass wouldn't fit. I mean, imagine, I tried this at home and I failed. I got my hand and I cupped my hand and I asked someone to pour some water into my hand. And I tried to hold all the water in my hand. But honestly, after a while, little drops of water kept coming out. And then soon, eventually all the water was gone. I mean, it didn't come out like a faucet, but eventually it was gone. Now, these rocks are fitted in so perfectly, right, that it's lasted for hundreds of years, and something as small as a blade of grass can fit through it. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, you guys have all seen grass before. If you haven't, then, something is wrong. Go outside, go to a park or something and pick a blade of grass and look at it and see how thin and small it is. And yet, this blade of grass can go through the little crevices, or not crevices, I'm sorry, the little sides of the wall. I mean, it's amazing. And you wonder how they did it? It's even crazier. They got water and sand, and they literally sanded down piece by piece so that it fit perfectly. And I think it's amazing. They didn't use any glue, they didn't use any cement, they didn't use any nails. This is all just rock piled on top of each other, fitted so perfectly, like a jigsaw puzzle that, it won't fall down. I mean, if you ask me, I think that's phenomenal, I wouldn't even try to do something like that. Now, we have this beautiful city that we've been looking at with amazing architecture, amazing stonework, these terraces, that allow them to have food and provide support for their city on top of the mountain. But there's also another aspect of this culture, which I think is ingenious, and it's the military group. So what this culture did is, if they wanted to conquer a place first, they sent their scouts. The scouts would go and they would kind of check out the land, is it worth it? I don't want to get in a fight over some worthless piece of land that I can't really do much with. So the scouts would go and they would check it out. And not only would they check it out, but they would remember what the land looked like, where the mountains were, where they had rivers, where they had roads. And they would also look at the strength of the opponent's armies and their defense. How strong is it? So they would go and they would kind of assess, they would judge all of this. Then they go back to the ruler or the king and they would tell them everything. And the king would get his advisors and they would come up with a strategy. What's the best way to tackle this group of people? What's the best strategy? How do we ambush them? How do we get them? Right? And after they had all of this, the king would actually send an ambassador. So he would send a guy, and the guy would go up to the kingdom and say, okay, guys, this is all the information we have about you guys. This is our army. We're stronger than you, we're better than you, and we know it. So what we're going to give you is a chance. We're going to give you a chance to just surrender and just come under our kingdom, follow our rules, and we won't kill you. There's going to be no bloodshed. And a lot of times, surprisingly, the kingdoms just said, okay, you know what, we're going to go with you guys. Because, I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of scary. These people, they know everything about you and you know nothing about them. And they're going to come and they're pretty much going to kill you. Genius, if you ask me, right? Now, I don't want to go over the same things over and over again, but like we're saying, they built these amazing terraces, that covered, half a mountain for support and for food, right? They built cities in amazing places. They had amazing stonework. Their army, military, was powerful and just, unbelievably crazy strong. But for a civilization so great, they didn't have writing. Now you're thinking, like, what? No writing? Everyone has some kind of writing. You know, how did they get messages across? How did they keep records? How did they do their math? I would love to be in a place where math didn't exist. I would rip everyone off. I would trade, and I would, come out on top. Well, this civilization came up with this genius idea. And it was this picture that you see right here on the screen. And what it was it was their method of counting and keeping record. It's pronounced a quipu. And it was pretty much a bunch of strings, right? put together, and they used it as records, and they would tie little knots in them. So let's say, for example, I own a store, and every time I sold a certain type of food, I would put a knot on a specific line that represented the food. After a while, I would know exactly how many times it was sold, right? You can document when it was sold, to whom it was sold. And the great thing about this is I can just carry it around and show someone else. I mean, it's a great way of recording information. Now, you're probably thinking, who are these great people? And you're probably getting excited by now, what is this group that we're going to be studying, right? You probably want to know what kind of food did they grow? What did these people look like? What language did they speak? You might, for the boys, you guys might want to know, how crazy were they when they really got into a fight, right? You might want to know what was their daily life like. Don't worry, we're going to cover all of that. All I want you to remember before we jump into this unit is the people that we're studying. They didn't have the technology that we have today, but they did an amazing job. How? Like I said, we really don't know. But going back, conquering mountains, literally conquering mountains, carving stone perfectly to the point where a blade of grass can't fit in, right? Having a superior and vast army that pretty much conquered everything that they wanted to conquer. Having a system of recording that, you and I probably couldn't have thought of. I mean, I don't know, maybe, but, ingenious. And just to give you guys a little more info, I think, this is truly great, and it's something that I wish, we had in our world today. No one in this civilization ever went hungry. No one. They had so much food, and their system of food distribution was so great that literally the richest person had food to eat, and the poorest person in that civilization or kingdom also had food to eat. I mean, imagine that, There's no one dying of hunger. There's no such thing as malnutrition, right? People aren't getting diseases because they're not getting the right nutrients or they don't have enough food. This was an amazing group of people who did amazing things. And I'll give you a little heads up on who they are. They are the Inca. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you like, look over the pictures again. You can pause it at a certain picture and just kind of just admire their work. Because it's really amazing. Just look at it, admire it. If you want, if you're not sick of hearing my voice by now, then you can listen to this YouTube or watch this YouTube again. And I want you to come up with some questions. I want you guys to be really pumped up about it, so that when you guys come to school the next day and we have our first activity on the Inca Empire and the conquest, we'll be starting off with their wars and how they became really powerful and super rich. You guys will be excited. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed this little video, and I will see you guys in class. Have a good day. Bye.